Welcome to On the Beat, where we bring you a different Buffalo Bills beat reporter every week, exclusively on the Overreaction Sports Network.
Well, what is going on, everybody? Welcome everybody into On the Beat on the Overreaction Sports Network, powered by Believe, a show where we bring you a different Buffalo Bills beat reporter or journalist every single week, and we talk about the topics swirling around our beloved Buffalo Bills. My name is Joe Miller. You can find me on Twitter at Joe Miller Wired, and I know that I promised our guest of honor, Josh Reed, Jerry Ostrowski, but Jerry could not make it tonight. So it's just the two of us, but please do us a favor. Please please subscribe, whatever platform you are consuming this podcast on or vidcast. If there's a thumbs up button or like button or some way for you to show that you've enjoyed this content, please throw that on there, throw the like on there. Also subscribe if you can. If you have the ability to leave a review or a comment, or if you can tell a friend, that would be great too, as we're trying to grow this platform and get our numbers up. Today, we are excited to have back with us for a return appearance. This is his second time, sports director for WIVB Channel 4 here in Buffalo, Josh Reed, ladies and gentlemen. Josh, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. You guys clearly have run out of people. if I'm a two-time guy, you guys have circled the wagons a few times. But Joe, hey, it's great to be back on with you guys. Sorry if I'm dealing a little bit with the voice stuff. Got the all the travel and got the little kids bringing the germs home from school. So dealing a little bit with that, but we'll get through it. We're gamers.
Yeah, sounds like the kids brought whatever is happening at school. Yeah. They brought it home to you, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Well, we'll do the best we can to get you out of here relatively quickly. I very much appreciate, as do our listeners, you kind of gutting this one out and as you said, kind of working through it. For those in the comments section, welcome to all of you. And if anybody has any questions for Josh that you'd like to ask, Ralph Wilson Sr. already asked if J.J. Watt was going to throw you through a table this weekend at the tailgate. But if you've got a question, feel free to, if I can get to it and see it, I'll throw it up there for Josh. But I think that's a good place to start. So you had an incredible opportunity to interview Bill Cowher as the CBS Today Show NFL Today crew is coming to Buffalo this weekend for the tailgate. Tell us a little bit about that interview. Maybe if you've got some information about some antics for the tailgate, give us the juice.
Yeah, so they're going to be doing their show live at noon. I'm 99.9% sure it's by lot 6 outside the stadium. So it's going to be a great time. And the NFL Today on CBS reached out to us because obviously our affiliation would be in the Buffalo CBS.
Yep.
Asked if I'd be interested in kind of promoting what they're going to do, along with having a chance to interview one of their people who are on air.
I'm sure you had to think about that for a minute, right?
Right. Yeah. Bill Cowher's name came up, and I said, that sounds like a great place to start. So had a great interview with Coach Cowher. Had a chance to ask him about everything from Sean McDermott and kind of the pressures as it relates to him trying to get his first Super Bowl. And Bill Cowher was great. He said that Sean reminds him a lot of himself. All he's doing is winning. And, it took Bill Cowher until year 14 to win his first Super Bowl. They could have ran him out of town way before that. Now look back. He's got a gold jacket and a Super Bowl ring. And I don't think anybody faults the Steelers for being patient and figuring it out eventually. But he did. He said, Sean reminds him a lot of himself. A defensive-minded head coach. Yep. Somebody who is very consistent with his message inside the locker room. Knows how he wants things done. Does them that way. Sticks with it. But also isn't afraid to adjust. Mm-hmm. He praised Sean a lot from the outside, seeing how Sean has kind of tweaked things as he's gone while maintaining the core values of how he wants to do things and building around Josh Allen. So it was really good. He talked about that. He talked about his rookie season as a head coach, his first season as a head coach. He went up against Marv Levy and the Bills.
Yeah.
That would have been the 93 playoffs.
Oh, I remember it.
And the Bills got him at Three Rivers.
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, it was an indoctrination of how things get cranked up for the playoffs. He was like, we had no answer for what Marv was doing on the other sideline. He was like, there's a head coach who'd seen it all and done it all. And he was like, there was a lot to be learned from that game. But yeah, he talked a lot about Josh Allen as well, about how, how much he appreciates Josh Allen's growth going from the young Josh Allen 5-step drop. Let's see how far I can throw it down the field, to a more cerebral approach to the game. It was really interesting stuff. We're going to have the entire interview up. Actually, it's already up on our website. I think it's 12 minutes.
Awesome.
It's on WIVB.com if you'd like to check that out.
Very cool. It's great that he talked about just coach's ability to transition, and I don't want to say morph, but grow is a good word, because a lot of the criticism that the Mafia has had around coach is just his ability or inability to change, in the sense of like continuing to do the same things year over year. And this year, Jerry Ostrowski has pointed out several times, specifically on our post-game shows, that he's doing a lot of things out of character, taking risks that he did not take in previous years, and going forward a lot on fourth. This past week, he went forward on fourth down. That allowed them to go forward on fourth down from our own 30.
Yeah,
it's just a little bit. I mean, they had not failed yet at that point. They didn't end up failing on a fourth down conversion in that game, but you got to figure, right? At some point, the numbers are going to be against you, and you're not going to make every fourth down. So at the 30-yard line, he had a lot of faith in those guys. So it's been fun to see that progress.
Yeah.
Yes?
He's been super aggressive, and I actually asked him after the game, and it was the answer I got wasn't to the question that I asked, only because I did a terrible job of asking the question. I started down one rabbit hole and then ended up coming out another one. But my point to Sean was, I think it's such a huge advantage right now that the Bills are very aggressive on fourth down and successful in fourth and short. B, on the other side of the ball, they're so good at third and short situations, fourth and short situations, that it's such an advantage. Look, the Colts went out there on third down, got a few yards, set up fourth and less than one.
Right.
They went out like they were going to run a play, decided just to try to get them to jump. Couldn't do it, so they punted. The Bills would have gone for it right there.
Yes.
That is a huge advantage. And Joe Flacco is not Josh Allen. So that's part of it. You've got that bear underneath center. I mean, he can just push the pile. But it is a huge advantage.
Yeah, I feel like the surprisingest one is that you're a journalist. Is surprisingest a word? The surprising
for right now it is.
The surprisingest one for me was last week against the Dolphins, when they went for it. I think from the 2 or the 3 yard line, fourth down in the red zone against the Fish, and he hit Mac Hollins in the back corner of the end zone, just because of the distance, the play that was called. It wasn't a Josh, you keep it, take care of it, get in the end zone. It was a little bit more of a kind of out there, very, I don't want to say dangerous, but a little more of a risky play. It just, the fact that he's allowing Joe Brady to do that, to make some of those play calls where, we're putting it in the air, Tom Brady-esque stuff, right? Peyton Manning type things versus the Jalen Hurts, tush push, which obviously they have mastered. They did get stopped on it once, like I said. Let's back up a little bit. We're having a great conversation. This is fun, everybody. Josh Reed from Channel 4. If you have questions for Josh, please throw them in the comment section. And Richard Rush has one, which kind of goes along with where I'm going. Just injury updates. He's asking about Amari Cooper in particular. Do you have any updates? Coleman, Kincaid, Cooper, where are we at on kind of all that stuff?
It sounds like it's going to be a lot longer for Keon. Nothing set in stone. We're going to find out a lot more tomorrow. Tomorrow's their normal Wednesday media day, when we get a chance to sit in front of Sean, get a chance to ask him for updates. Keon does sound like it's going to be a little bit more long-term. I don't know this. Mm-hmm. If I were to guess, I would say there's more likely we'll see him after the bye week for San Francisco. I don't know that. That's a guess. That is me kind of reading between the lines and trying to connect some dots and stuff like that. That
was Kincaid, or that was Keon?
That was Keon.
Keon, gotcha. Okay, yeah, my bad. Yeah.
I think there's a better chance we see Amari for Kansas City. It sounds like it's a little bit more of a pain tolerance thing for Amari Cooper. So we'll see where that goes as the week kind of progresses. I mean, look, as you can imagine, wrist injuries, hand injuries when you're a receiver, period, is about as, it's about as bad as you can get, especially when you've got the quarterback who throws nothing but fastballs.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see how those guys progress through the week. Dalton Kincaid's another one.
Yep.
Who you just kind of go, I mean, man, can this team get worse luck when it comes to their playmakers getting dinged up? And I say that you hope that eventually it averages out and you start to get, for the home stretch, you're 8-2.
Right.
You start to get Keon back. You get Matt Milano back, or they open their 21-day window on him. You start to get, Amari Cooper back. You get Kincaid back eventually. And you really start to go, okay, here we go.
Right.
And it's all about timing.
Very much so. And it's funny because you said as a wide receiver, that's like a wrist is one of the worst injuries. I'm going to be honest with you. As a human, a wrist injury is one of the most annoying. And I've separated shoulders. Like, we all played sports as kids. And just as a man, like you jam your wrist or you have a wrist injury and life sucks. The Buffalo Bills opened the 21-day window on Matt Milano. Can you tell us a little bit about that? There's questions. A whole bunch of people are asking about Matt Milano's status.
Yeah, that's huge, right? They've got 21 days to kind of bring him back. I mean, obviously he's not going to be on the field for Kansas.
What does that mean? I'm going to stop you right there. They've got what if it gets to 22 days? Is it?
No, this is the 21-day window. He goes past it. This is it. He's got 21 days to get ready and ramp up and get back on the field. Now, here's the thing.
He has to be active, not on the roster, inactive. He has to be active on. Okay, gotcha.
Yep, sorry.
You're
sorry
fine.
about that little coughing fit.
You're good. You're good. Yep.
So, and with Matt, they'll get to carry him through the bye week, and those days count. But here's the thing. All the team's going to be gone. Like, the team has to go away.
Right.
So, you know what I mean? But I'm sure Matt will, look, all we've heard when we ask, Sean about, his rehab and stuff is how much he's attacked it.
Right.
Just relentless attack on this rehab. I would not be shocked if we don't see him for San Francisco as well. Yeah. I mean, wow, would that be just a boost to that lineup? I mean, their defense is already really good. But, when you start looking at big picture, some of the things that the teams that they are going to go up against when the postseason rolls around, and you look at the Ravens possibly, the Chiefs I wouldn't say they've turned into a run team, because anytime you have Patrick Mahomes, you're going to still be a pass team, but they run the ball very effectively. I wonder if at some point we know that Sean likes to go with the two linebackers and, of course, Taron Johnson on the field.
Yep.
Right? Dorian Williams has played well. I wonder if at some point they sprinkle in a little bit more of three linebackers.
That would be wild.
When it comes to facing Derrick Henry. Maybe Isaiah Pacheco, if he comes back in the postseason.
Right.
Start looking at some of these teams that, like I said, to go back to Derrick Henry, I mean, that the opportunity and maybe the shot to have Bernard, Milano, and Dorian Williams on the field somehow in those third and short situations,
right?
Man, that would be, look, and here's the thing. I say that knowing that, damn, I don't know if I ever want to take Taron Johnson off the field. I mean, that's the pill you might have to swallow.
Yeah.
And it's just, but I think that there are circumstances. I'm not saying that all of a sudden becomes your base defense by any means.
Yeah, for sure.
But there, situationally, that would give them some pretty nice flexibility.
Yeah, and that monster game that the Colts had against the Buffalo Bills, where Jonathan Taylor lost his mind.
Yeah,
they were in the nickel 4-2 exclusively. Leslie Frazier was asked after the game, did you ever consider, whether it was in his Monday presser or in the post game, did you ever consider moving out of the nickel 4-2? Leslie said not once. And we saw a couple, to your point, we saw a couple games after that where, whoever we were playing had a stout running attack where they did start to sprinkle in some 4-3 defense, which is outside of their character, which is wild. That's a great segue and a transition as it pertains to just the Chiefs coming into town this weekend. Again, everybody, Josh Reed from Channel 4 Buffalo. Great to have you. If you've got a question for Josh, throw it in the comments section. They're asking questions that are following my notes, so this is like working out perfectly. More surprising, the Buffalo Bills being 8-2. I think we're all surprised that the Bills are 8-2, but more surprising, the Bills being 8-2 or the Chiefs undefeated and scraping out wins the way that they are, with Kelsey looking old, Pacheco being out, having some struggle at the wide receiver position before DeAndre Hopkins got there. Which is more surprising to you?
I think the Chiefs being undefeated. I went on a podcast before the season started, and I thought I predicted the Bills would be 6-2 after 8 games.
Wow.
So, and that was the reaction I got from most people.
Wow.
It was actually with Sal Capaccio, who I know everybody's a friend of every show.
Oh yeah.
But that's our buddy. And that was kind of the reaction I got from everybody. I said, look, I don't think the Bills' beginning of their schedule is that daunting. As daunting as I think everybody thinks it's going to be. Now we hit the 4-game stretch where it's like, here we go, right? I mean, you've got 4 teams that are all expecting to be in the playoffs, including 3 just juggernauts, right?
Yeah.
The Niners are figuring it out now. They got back. Of course, the Chiefs are the Super Bowl champs, and the Lions look like, man, that you could be talking about back-to-back games there. Is it LA and then Detroit? Yeah. Okay. So anyways, you'd be talking about a stretch where you play the
I believe it's
favorites.
It's Chiefs, 49ers, Lions, Rams, I believe.
Yeah. So you could be talking about back-to-back games against the 2 teams that could play in the NFC Championship between the Niners and the Lions. I mean, it's a daunting. So, but I'm not 8-2. I probably would have said 7-3 if I would have gotten past the 6-2 prediction at the beginning of the year. So, but yeah, the fact that the Chiefs come in 9-0 and are undefeated, and the way they've done it just every week. I mean, every week, blocking, they kick the field goal and it's a chip shot and it gets blocked. They block it. It's like, you've got to be kidding me.
It reminds me.
But they put themselves in that position.
Yeah, it reminds me
every week.
It reminds me of the old song, have a little help from my friends.
Yeah, that's true too. They've definitely been the beneficiary of some calls and non-calls.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be interesting to see how that is played this weekend, being in Buffalo, because the Mafia and the Chiefs fans are the same. You've been to that stadium. I've been there 5 times, I think, for games. Those fans know football like we know football, and you're not going to get anything by the Bills fans. So I mean, they're going to let you know if there's a problem as far as just in a call, much like in that Miami game with the 2 phantom holding calls, which one of them they didn't even show on the replay, which is interesting. But when you're talking about this football game and kind of the way the Bills are set up and who they're playing, the Super Bowl the NFL steeped in tradition and loves to call back to its history. The Super Bowl that nobody realizes that we need is literally the Ralph C. Wilson Jr. Super Bowl, the Lions versus the Buffalo Bills. The stories that they could tell about Ralph Wilson used to being a co-owner of the Lions, and then, having to divest that and sell that off to become the owner of the Buffalo Bills, and neither team having won a Super Bowl. There's so much potential there. If you believe the NFL is scripted, I mean, it's one of those things, but that wasn't really a question. That was just more me kind of, just talking. But Curtis Samuel, let's talk about wide receivers for a minute, and then I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much. For everybody that's listening, that if you've joined us late here live, Josh is playing hurt.
I'm playing through it a little bit. We're good.
So I appreciate it. So I'll do my best to talk a little bit too when I can. But I'm going to keep you for a couple more minutes just because I want to get you out of here and respect.
You don't mind my voice. It's all good.
No, you sound great. Curtis Samuel found the football in the Colts game for the first time this year, or should we probably say it better? The football finally found Curtis. I said on the post-game show with Jerry and John on Sunday, I felt like Keon's absence put Curtis in a position where he was in a role where the football would find him a little more. Do we feel like that we're going to see increased targets from him again, probably this weekend with Keon out?
It almost has to be, right? I mean, your options are other than him. I mean, what are they? It's still Khalil Shakir,
right?
Who just, to me has just been fantastic.
Lights out.
He's just, man, you talk about the exact guy and the type of guy that you'd want leading a wide receiver room.
Right,
He does
right.
everything right. Ask any one of his teammates, they rave about him. I mean, it's just, and he is the opposite of what a lot of receivers are. Yeah, and I mean that in a good way. I mean, personality trait wise, he's a joy to be around and interview. He's just great. I cannot say enough good things about Khalil Shakir.
Yep.
But back to the original kind of point here is, yeah, Curtis Samuel. I mean, they finally got him involved in the Colts game. I do think it's just a matter of, I really wonder if at the end of the year we're going to find out that Curtis Samuel was really, really dinged up early on.
Yeah.
And because sometimes that happens. The year ends and you do some interviews with guys and you find out that, oh, player X is actually going to get surgery on something he hurt back in August.
Zach Moss. Moss played that one season and he was completely ineffective. And it's like, oh, I had ankle surgery 3 weeks after the season ended. It's like, wait.
Yeah. And then it really makes you go, okay.
Yeah.
You know, there is still some giving these guys a benefit of the doubt, know, because you just have to wonder. We know that he was dinged up. We know that he was dealing with some injuries. It just, for this to go so, not even sideways, just neutral, just kind of nothing. It was just kind of like, you know, you light the sparkler and it just doesn't do anything. It's just kind of nothing. So, yeah, I think that, you know, if there's ever been a time where you need him to step up and make plays, it's right now, because they're in need of guys to make plays on the outside. But, you know, on top of that, I think we could see a heavy dose of James Cook and Ray Davis in this one.
Yeah, a couple more questions for you, Josh. Again, thank you so much for being here with me.
Yeah,
super, super appreciate it. You know, when you look at just these coordinators that the Buffalo Bills have, it feels like the energy, the atmosphere, I don't want to say culture, the mood amongst the coaching staff is a little bit different than I've ever seen it or felt it between Coach and Babbage. And Babbage obviously has a mentor in Sean McDermott, but even Coach and Brady, you know, when you look back to the Dable years and kind of, you could feel the tension. It would come out in press conferences. I specifically remember after the Browns game in 2019, when all they had to do was run the football and Dable kept throwing it and we lost that game, and Coach was like, yeah, we're going to talk about that. And then afterwards, like on Wednesday, he was like, we talked about it. That's not going to be a problem anymore. Do you get a sense or a feeling as well that Coach is just in a different kind of like,
I think it's growth.
Yeah.
I think we all grow. And if anybody's ever been a leader in any situation, whether it's work or a sports team or whatever, you know, you grow, you become a different person than you were your first year. And you just get a sense of where you need to be in what lane. And some of that's growth and some of it's, no matter who you work with, you have to treat different people differently. I'm not saying, you know, there was a saying, I forget which Bills player said this. He said, everybody deserves to be treated fairly.
Yes.
Doesn't mean everybody's going to get treated equally. And I think that that's very poignant, is, you know, you got to just handle different people differently. And I think Sean has probably grown in that aspect. I also think I try to read up on a lot of leadership stuff. I think Roy Williams is somebody that
we gotta talk, bro, because that's my wheelhouse.
I think Roy Williams is somebody who, you know, his leadership style is something I've always appreciated. You know, when you look at what he did at Kansas and then went to UNC and, you know, finally won his first. He was always that guy. You know, when we talk about comparisons to Sean McDermott, goes to Kansas, can never win the big one. Goes to UNC, wins a national championship. Afterwards, a reporter said to him, this is one of the greatest college basketball coaches of all time.
Yeah.
Afterwards, they said, does this kind of remove that stigma and make you feel like you're up there with the rest of the coaches that are getting? He goes, I have one more win than I had yesterday. He's like, I do.
Reality.
Like, if I would have lost this game, I'm not a worse coach.
Right.
Like, it's one game. It's just, I think that Sean, back to Sean, I've always valued people that I've been around and leadership positions that don't feel like they always have to be the smartest person in the room.
Yeah.
Like, to me, it's all about getting as many ideas as you can together. And if your idea is better than my idea, that's fine. Let's do that. And I feel like Sean is in that. I feel like Sean more comfortable in his skin now than maybe he was, when he first took over. And I feel like that is part of him. And I think Brandon Beane is probably. I feel like maybe he's been that way all along.
Yeah.
I think Brandon Beane is just. I think right now, leadership wise, I know there's a lot of Bills fans that will disagree with me. I think leadership wise, the Bills are just in such a good spot. I think Brandon Beane is an elite general manager, and say what you want to about Sean, but I'm going to tell you right now, if he walks out of that door, it'll take him all of 2 seconds to get another head coaching job.
You ain't kidding.
I mean, and it'll take you, there's a good chance it'll take you years to find somebody to replace him.
Yeah, you ain't kidding. So leadership is one of the. I was in executive leadership for a while, and it's a passion of mine. And there's a big difference between a manager and a leader. What you said and what was said is very pointed. I tell people all the time. It's not a matter of this is how I lead and this is how I lead people. Everybody has to be led different.
Yes.
And Sean is good at that. And it's funny because I started this podcast in 2019, and that's when I started to realize that Sean has read a lot of the same books I've read and studied a lot of the same stuff that I've studied. That was when the whole best version of myself thing started to kind of come out of the Bills locker room. And then it started to permeate its way around the NFL. And now, like, everybody says it. I'm like, that came from Coach.
Yeah,
and I know what book it came from. Just for you, just because I've read a bunch of these books as well. One of the best leadership books I've ever read, and this is a sidebar for anybody listening as well. Now, author, I'm sorry. Yeah. The author is the author. Whether he wrote it or not or had a ghostwriter, I don't know. Above the Line by Urban Meyer, when he's talking about Ohio State and his time at Ohio State. One of the best leadership books I've ever.
Good, I'll have to check it out.
Unbelievable leadership book, but there's a slew. We could talk for hours about that. There's a whole bunch of people asking about game plan stuff for the weekend, as far as like being able to blitz. Can we run on the Chiefs? Which are all questions that are valid. I want to get you out of here because I know you're not feeling well, and I promise to kind of do that. I've got two questions kind of for you left before I give them to you. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find you?
Okay, yeah, you can find me on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, @4 Josh Reed. I'm also on Facebook. I know this probably isn't the audience for Facebook, but when you do TV news, that's a little bit more of a generational thing. So I do have a lot of Bills fans that kind of, I've become friends with on Facebook because that's kind of what they lean toward that. And I'm on Instagram as well. You can find me. It's the Josh Reed on Instagram. So, yeah, you can follow me on all those and reach out and I'll give you a follow back. And And then obviously you can go to WIVB.com. You can find all of our stuff up on the website.
Very good. So I'll acquiesce my questions and go with what the crowd is saying. So I'll break it down: offense versus defense. So when you're speaking offensively with the issues or the concerns that the Bills have at wide receiver, do you see the Bills going run heavy against this defense, or do you see the defense of the Chiefs probably trying to take that run game away from the Bills and making Josh beat you with these wide receivers, which I would be honest with you, would probably scare me to death as a defensive coordinator. But Spagnuolo is one of the best. But offensively speaking, how are you attacking the Chiefs?
I think one of the things that we may see more of that we haven't this year is design runs for Josh Allen. That's something that they've kind of leaned away from.
Yeah.
And you almost think, good. You don't need Josh Allen in week 3 with 10 design runs. But against the Chiefs, with the idea that if you win this one, you're still very much in the hunt for the 1 seed. And that's big. So I could see that being a huge part of the game plan going in. Other than that, I think Joe Brady does such a good job of, and Josh Allen, they do such a good job of taking what the defense gives them.
Yeah.
If they were a little bit lighter in the box, then they'll run the ball. If they want to put 8, 9 in the box, then look for Khalil Shakir to be a guy impacting. I keep waiting for the game when Dawson Knox gets 6, 7 catches and has a big one. It's just, I know it's been a while since we've seen that type of game from him, but Josh still has a lot of confidence in him. They have had a ton of reps together. Dawson has played in this rivalry for years, so maybe this is the one.
Well, it was the last big game he had, I think, was against the Chiefs after the season after the 13-second game. Right?
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, so this might be the one. And then defensively speaking, there's folks in the comment section just asking the question about whether or not we can get pressure on Pat Mahomes. And I don't feel like pressuring Pat Mahomes is the greatest idea. I think containing him and keeping him in the pocket is the best idea, and obviously sticking to your run fits, and obviously there's going to have to be some sort of a spy on him. But defensively speaking, real quick, what are your thoughts, Bills wise, kind of keeping the Chiefs at bay?
Yeah, I mean, look, if Sean and Bobby are consistent with what they've wanted to do forever, they want to get pressure with 4. That's always been their goal. That's always been kind of the blueprint, whether they've been successful at it or not. Yeah, at times, and there are times when they haven't been.
Right.
I'm with you. I think Patrick Mahomes is at his nastiest when you lose him.
Yeah.
He gets outside of the pocket and he's able to improvise, and suddenly there's Kelsey running 40 yards down the seam, from the backside coming across, or Xavier Worthy busts loose and there he goes 80 yards down the field. I think we're going to see a Bills defense that goes, okay, I thought this was really interesting. Last week we were asking, I can't remember if it was Taryn or Terrell, on a Wednesday going into the Colts game, about the amount of yards they gave up against the Dolphins in the run game. And they said, look, there are times defensively when we're playing soft.
Yeah.
And we're going to give you 6-yard runs. We'll give you 5-yard runs. We're just not going to give you a 25-yard, post pattern for a touchdown. Like, that's not going to happen.
Right.
We're not going to give you a post corner for 40. And so, you look at the Chiefs, their ability to run the ball pretty successfully. I can see the Bills just saying, hey, go 12 plays. Let's see you be patient. And hopefully at some point we can knock the ball out.
Right.
Force a turnover.
Right. Yeah, it's I want to say it was Taryn Johnson. I know exactly the question. Yeah, I know exactly the question you're talking about. And but even when I say, even in my mind, when I convince myself, it's like it may have been Burrell.
Yeah. Both
Josh,
playmakers.
Yeah, this has been a fantastic conversation. I kept you longer than I promised to keep you. Thank you so much for being here and being a part of this. It's a pleasure to have you. It's just a wonderful, easy conversation with a lot of energy, even when you're not feeling well. A ton of energy. So thank you so much for being here. But if it's okay with you, I'll get us out of here so you can get to resting tonight. Is that good?
Yeah, sounds good.
Awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being tuned in to On the Beat on the Overreaction Sports Network, powered by Believe. My name is Joe Miller. That there is Josh Reed from Channel 4. Please do him a favor, do us a favor. Follow all of his content, follow him all on all of his socials, and be engaged with him. But we thank you so much for joining us. For me, for John, for Jerry, we love you guys. We appreciate you. Go Bills.